right. Welcome to another Lightning Strikes Twice, where we're super fast. Super fast.
Well, we would hope. Yeah, we got two topics a piece, or one topic a piece. So there's two topics in total.
1+1 is 2. 1+1
Yes,
is 2. 5 minutes
exactly.
piece.
5 minutes.
10.
And we
$5,
discussed them.
$4, $4.
$500 million. Oh man. Anybody that
Well,
gets that reference.
yeah. Was that like the Pepsi Jet thing or
No. I think was it like Wendy's or something? I don't know.
hmm,
Yeah, I think.
Pizza
Or
Hut?
no,
Pizza.
it was like a fast food place, like a drive-through kind of.
Oh,
I think it was Wendy's. Anyway,
yeah. Anyway,
so
that's not the topic.
nope. It'll be me first.
All right.
Okay. Well, lately there's been a lot of hubbub about people using copyrighted works to train AI, like art and stuff like that. Um, so what do you think about that?
Uh, as in, like, they shouldn't be allowed to use copyrighted stuff
That's
to like influence the AI.
that's the argument people are making. Yeah.
Well, that's dumb as fuck.
Yeah, because I mean, in my mind, it's really no different than using copyrighted works to learn how to draw, like
Exactly.
emulating other artists.
Like you do that, you have to do that with humans too. Like,
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, if I sit there and learn how to draw by, I don't know, or how to paint following Bob Ross or something, like, oh, that's all copyrighted, so I shouldn't be able to, I shouldn't be following along with Bob Ross's painting process because, you know, violating law.
subsequent demise.
Well, and I think people don't. I think this comes down to a misunderstanding of how generative AI works. That people are led to believe or do believe, and I mean, it's kind of this myth that's perpetuated out there that AI is essentially pulling things from the interwebs or whatever, like a cache of images or something, and collaging it together. When that is totally not the case. You can
It's
see
like
that.
a percentage of that. Like,
Well,
you can see some of that happen, like especially with like lyrics. Like, people are like, oh, I asked it to write a Megadeth song,
mhm.
and then it'll just like be pretty close, but then it'll just, you'll see it randomly pick like already used song titles and stick them into the lyrics, and it's like, that's
Well, yeah, but when it comes to like graphic arts, it like it is it's things can look similar, but it's basically learning how to draw by kind of emulating artists, their styles or whatever. Like it,
yeah.
it's not like it's not lifting an image and cutting and pasting it into the drawing. It is creating it from scratch, but it's kind of like it'd be kind of like, oh, I'm looking over here at this thing, and then I'm drawing something similar to
Yeah,
that. But you're
I mean,
drawing it.
correct me if I'm wrong, but when they do deep fakes, like young actors on Star Wars in like new movies, right? Like the young version of the old actor in a new movie.
Mm-hmm.
They the way they do that has to be done from like, superimposing and then like animating over the actual image of them when they were young, right?
Well, it can be. It really depends. I
I
mean,
mean, I'm probably totally oversimplifying and making it sound easier
yeah,
than it is, but like,
yeah, because it is kind of like a neural network sort of thing. I mean, it's exceedingly complex in terms of how it operates, but actually really simple. I mean, like basically, let's say you want to make a young Mark Hamill, right?
mhm,
You would feed the AI countless images. The more images, the better, and be like, oh, this was him playing Luke Skywalker back in the 70s, all these clips and all these photos and stuff like that, as many as possible. And then it's going to kind of figure out what a Mark Hamill is, and be able to sort of craft that image in relation to the old Mark Hamill, say.
Right.
Um, and but it isn't like just copy pasting an image. It's creating something from scratch that is in the likeness of that image, because it's sort of like, I guess, come to understand what a Mark Hamill is, So that's how that stuff works. It like, and so this whole idea of like, oh, you can't train it using copyrighted stuff because now it's creating copyrighted stuff. It's just basically like, oh, well, it'd be like, I don't know. People have this idea that it's basically just, oh, it's taking a picture that somebody made and it's just sticking it in there. It's not. It's looking at that, essentially, like the likeness of that, and creating something based on that data, based on that image.
I
So it's
just had
like,
a funny thought. Like, what if we had AI create an AI Eric and an AI Casey,
we should.
and we interview them, but like the problem would be that yours would look all realistic
Oh, that's time.
damn.
You can finish your sentence at least.
But mine would have like 17 different backgrounds collaged
Oh, yeah,
together.
you're right. Yep. It'd be like, yeah, it'd be basically this, whereas yours could be, it'll keep like shifting, or
It's just some kind of blob. Like,
yeah. Just like a sort of a combination of all the different backgrounds you've had.
yeah.
Oh man. All right. Well, it's on to you then.
All right. Well, I would like to pose a philosophical slash political question.
Okay.
Should we have an actual world police?
Ooh.
Not necessarily the US.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think if we have a world police, it should be more like UN, essentially. Not that they're the greatest organization in the world. Um, I, I I've got mixed feelings on that. Like, I
Yeah.
think it's a good idea for there to be some sort of over, like, overall planet wide system of checks and balances, but that's a slippery slope there. Like, it could lead
Yeah.
to like essentially world domination if it gets too big. But
Well,
this is the thing. In order to be able to enforce things, it has to be big. So how do you?
yeah. But okay, so police implies that they don't actually have like um you know final authority on anything. So it wouldn't be like they could dominate necessarily. Like it would be more like a network of agreed upon principles between each and every country. Like
Mhm.
it would have to be, right? You know, the leaders of each and every country like sign on to and agree with like these are the rules we're going to follow. We're not going, like basically what I'm driving at is avoiding situations like Putin where he breaks all these rules and then says UN better not get involved because that's against the law.
Yeah.
It's like, well, okay, what about all the shit the laws you broke, the agreements and stuff,
Oh,
and
certainly there would be what would definitely be considered war crimes that have been committed. Now, is
yeah,
Putin
but there's this gray area. It's like,
is
well, who enforces the war crimes?
well,
There's
and
no actual world police,
who also is perpetrator, because is Putin the perpetrator? Like, he's simply like in charge at the Kremlin. Like, he's not the person on the front line. But then again, it's like, okay, well, but he kind of signed off on this operation that resulted in war crimes. So ultimately, being the top dog, you got to answer for the things that your underlings did.
yeah, I
Um,
mean, calling for the war on Ukraine I mean, kind of constitutes the essence of. I mean, to me, war itself is a war crime.
Yes, I
So,
agree. Yeah, yeah, like that.
like, I don't even know why we just call it war. Like, it's just war crime. You know,
Yeah,
like,
the only warfare that is justified, in my opinion, is defensive. And actually, it's interesting in the U.S. that used to be how things were. Like
mhm.
it's like Switzerland essentially. So Switzerland is very much like the early US. They have a militia, not like necessarily like a standing army because everybody is part of the army. Um, and and so it's an like a defensive kind of system, which is why Switzerland is not, imperialistic going around and doing things. And the US, of course, started getting imperialistic. And so they kind of did away with the militia and went to like, oh yeah, we have a formal military now. Uh,
Hmm, hmm.
and
Yeah,
well,
they're a very conservative government, from what I understand.
mm-hmm, yeah,
Um, which kind of stands to reason why they have a system like that. Um, but there are drawbacks to that as well.
that's true. Oh
Um,
man, this might be an episode. In
oh
fact, now that I think about it,
yeah, there's a lot of different directions that could go. Um, but I mean, yeah, like I do recognize the slippery slope potential if it's not like constructed correctly, as with anything.
true, yeah,
Um,
and
yeah,
everything gets corrupted eventually. So
yeah,
there has to be some kind of, I guess, reset system or refresh system to kind of
yeah, yeah,
keep it from getting too big or too the scope to keep the scope from widening, I guess.
yeah. I mean, as long as the punitive actions exercised by world police were limited to transgressions upon other countries,
Yeah.
then it should be pretty well like above the board, I think.
Yeah, and I think participation of all countries, like every country provides their own police officers, I guess. So there's a
Hmm.
blend of a whole bunch of different well,
Man,
that's time.
yeah, yeah.
That's
There's a lot
that's a
more to
good
say on
one.
that.
That might just be an episode, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a whole lot we could talk about there.
Oh yeah.
Well, thanks everybody for sticking with us for yet another Lightning Strikes Twice.
See you next time. Woo!